Hey guys, welcome back to the Sub 1 build. My first foray and endeavor into building a model railroad. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Jason. I'm very thrilled to have a lot of people who've been following the channel, viewing the videos that are posted and the updates, and all the engagement from the community. It's been absolutely fantastic, really motivational, and very, very pleased at where the channel has grown to already. Very short time, obviously we're only 3 video updates in, and with my first attempt at a model railroad, I'm pretty stoked about how it's going so far. So want to do a quick shout out and a mention to Roy. I'm sure we all know Roy Smith by now. Stellar guy. He's got a YouTube channel, Facebook page. He models the Evanston subdivision, Union Pacific. He was kind enough featured my layout photo on his channel, which was pretty cool. It's a nice honor for sure when you see the big guys taking note of the little guys. He really strives to help build the community and to engage model railroaders, and really he's an excellent ambassador to the hobby. So I just wanted to tip my hat to him, say thank you very much, Roy. Really enjoy what you're doing. I'm sure to tune into Dispatch whenever it happens. It doesn't matter if it's day late or a buck short, bud. As long as you get her up there, that's all that counts. So I know there's a lot of us that really enjoy that variety show, and his style and the way he presents his show is always very entertaining. So thanks very much, Roy. Keep up the great work. And my humble addition to the hobby, has a lot to do with your input and your way of doing things. So thank you very much. So getting back to the layout update, what happened this week? What are we doing? What have I done? Honestly, not a whole lot. Now when I say not a whole lot, it's not a whole lot that looks tangible, as the last 2 updates have been pretty noticeable. Lots of track laid, secured, wiring done. This week was strictly painting and weathering the track that's down. Obviously I'm still waiting on some track for my yard to represent Blenheim, so waiting on that to come in. In the meantime though, I was able to get some paint down, and I wanted to run you guys through really quick sort of my process steps. I'll show you the finished product. Pardon me, I have a section of track that's done minus the ballast, but the track is weathered, rusted, detailed, all that fun stuff. So I'm gonna do some shots of that after this, but I wanted to take you through and sort of show you the products I'm using to achieve the effect, and what I'm using to get there. So obviously we want a clean surface. I come from a military modeling background, so wash all the time, particularly resin parts, but not to say plastic or even metal. It's very important that you have a clean surface. So once I did everything to lay the track, secure the track, and soldered the track, it was important for me to go through and give her a good clean with alcohol. The higher percentage the better. Obviously it's 70% just because that's what's readily available. Ideally you want to be upwards of 99% if possible. For my purpose, it was to clean the track, so paint would adhere, and that's what I wanted to do. So I gave it a good scrub down with alcohol, misted it, wiped it down with a microcloth, got it as clean as possible. I then have a very complicated process, so pay attention. You gotta watch closely here now. Okay, first I get a rattle can of this bad boy. So this is the camo coat from Beauty Tone. So this is a home hardware color. This is their dark brown. 1720-095 is the exact part number. It's their Beauty Tone line. Absolutely fantastic. It's a very very flat matte finish. It's excellent. So I went ahead and gave a base coat of this to the entire track, both the rail and the ties. Obviously I was careful to not go heavy. As I'm modeling an N scale, it's very easy to obscure the tie plate detail if you go too heavy. So first was a coat of this. While this is drying, I work in small sections, so I'll do maybe let's say 3-4 feet of track at a time. So I'll give it a coat of this first, a very light coat. But you want good even coverage. You want this to be basically, this is your undercoat, this is your primer. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot of this, followed by I give it a very light dusting of this. This is just a gray interior primer, interior exterior. I think this is from Michaels, if I'm not mistaken. or it could be Home Hardware as well. I'm not too sure, but it's a gray. Again, you want a flat color, and I basically go through and I dust this on the rails. I'll give it a little heavier coverage in some spots just to modulate and break up the brown. So 2 coats of this, or not 2, a coat of this and an undercoat of this. So this is the base of your track weathering. Once that's dry, or before it dries, it's very important you get your rails cleaned. So what I do is I will actually take a piece of masonite right here and rub that along the rails with the abrasive side down. Then take a microfiber cloth, again with some alcohol. You want to be careful with the alcohol because the alcohol will remove the paint. So you want to damp your cloth with alcohol, and using a tool, the spatula that I demonstrated in the earlier video, with that microfiber cloth along the rails to get any remaining paint. Those of you who have a bright board or whatever, I would recommend you do that last. You don't want to gum it up with the paint. Some people won't use the bright boy. It's personal preference. The alcohol does a great job, gets it good and clean. And while we're touching on clean track, I work on electrical circuits for a living. It's my job. So I can tell you without a doubt, it's not so much whether or not it's bright and shiny. It's whether or not it's conducting the current properly. There's a number of different methods. I'm going to get into that maybe another video, but high percentage alcohol. You don't want any moisture. You don't want that corroding your rails, anything of that nature. So get it good and clean. Once your rails are clean, before you go on to the next step, I would recommend you run your trains. So that's what I did. I got my touchiest engine out, put it on the tracks, and ran it at a very low speed to make sure that it didn't gum anything up. When I got to turnouts, I was taping turnouts to make sure that I wasn't gumming up the points. Most of my layout is not reliant on the points for conducting current. I put in enough drop feeders that I avoid that problem, but you will still see your engines stutter if you've got a poor connection at a turnout. So put a piece of tape, just a strip of tape across the contact points. It doesn't need to be the whole switch, just the contact points. The other thing I do is I take a Q-tip and I dab that in the alcohol, and I will clean out the frog, just to make sure that there's nothing gumming that up. And again, you don't want that dirt transferring into your engines. So make sure it's running, make sure everything's good and clean before you proceed to the next step. Okay, next step is very, very simple. It's just a series of dry brushing and painting. So what I did was I went through and I picked out 3 colors that I liked to modulate the tie coloring on the rail. So I have some ties that I painted in a model color Vallejo 70.988 khaki, as well as a 70.740 SS middle brown. And then I have some that are chocolate brown, 70.872 from the Vallejo model color line. Vallejo products are excellent. Again, I come from a military modeling background. These are fantastic paints. Really, really like them, and they last a good long while. For my rail, I went ahead and painted the rail using orange brown. Again, a model color line from Vallejo, FS30252, and it's an orange brown. So I think it turned out very, very, very nice. Once I picked out certain ties with those colors, I went ahead and did some dry brushing. So I did a very light gray dry brush. It was just a Michaels Special Americana. This is a slate gray. I also did a slight dry brush using fawn. And then I highlighted both of those using pure white, just to help pull out the detail in the tie. Now it's hard to see, and it's something that I'm going to do. I'm going to try to show. But really, these are going to come in once the ballast is down. So once the ballast is down, now that I have the ties painted and weathered the way I like, in order to bring it all together and blend the ballast into the job, I'm going to be going ahead and using chalks. So these are homemade. They're kind of like weathering powders. They work the exact same way, except they're a lot cheaper. Very, very simple process. So I've got a black and a brown, and I'm going to be using those with dollar store makeup brushes. Very handy, dirt cheap, and excellent for applying powders. So I'll go through and pick out more detail pardon me, and weather my tracks a little further using those powders. The powders themselves were actually made from this. So for those of you who can't see, these are soft pastel assorted colors. It is artist chalk. That's all it is. It's artist chalk from Michael's. And you just take these chalks and you grind them down using a cheese grater, using a hobby, like whatever you want, whatever you need to do to get the powder. Some guys throw them into a blender if you got a big enough piece. This is a very colorful set. This set was only, I believe it was $8. I needed the black, the white, the tan, the brown, and the yellow. That's all I needed. You can get sets that are a little more geared towards what we're doing, like they're more earthy tones. This is just all they had at the store for what I needed, so I picked it up. But really, really simple process. You just grind those chalks up, and they're way cheaper than the powders, and they work exactly the same. So once that's all set, obviously, and the ballast is glued, when I do go ahead and use the powders, again, all it's going to require is a simple misting of the rubbing alcohol, and that's going to help set and bind the chalks in place. And then when you follow that up with a blast of hairspray, you're good to go. So I'm going to try to do a how-to video on all that and show you the process that I'm using for that. Show you how I use the chalks, how I secure them, and how I don't worry about them rubbing off, right? It's interesting because the area of modeling that I came from, models were handled, used, played with in a game. So it was very cognizant of making sure everything was sealed perfectly so that you could handle the model. The great thing about model railroading is people shouldn't be touching it, so you don't have to go to the extremes that I was going to in my other modeling. So I'm going to take you over, put you onto the other camera here. We're going to have a look at the finished product of the rail. I'm going to show you the progress I did, and then we'll come back here and talk about next steps. Okay, stay tuned. Okay guys, so here we are, just off the tripod. Excuse the camera work. Everything that you see here is done using that process. So this portion of the rail was strictly done using the spray cans. I haven't gone through and detailed any of the rail or ties yet. So this gives you a sense of the color. You can pick up how I've modulated with the gray and the brown just to get that weathered effect. It's quick, it's easy, it's fast. The only thing you need to worry about is overspray, which is why it's a great time to do it right now in the build, because there's nothing on the layout I need to worry about overspray with. So it works out great. So here you can see the coloration that I've achieved in the ties and the rails. Now I have to go through and pick out my detail. So that's like that all the way around until we get to here, and now you can start to see the difference. Just going to let the local go through here. We're going to see if we can zoom in here. So here you can see the rust on the rail, as well as the variation in the ties. So I've gone through and picked up. So as you can see right here, you can see the variation in the tie color. This has been dry brushed. It's hard for the camera to pick it up. I think once the ballast gets on, it's really going to show. And that's simply because it's going to be a neutral background. You know, it won't blend quite as well. Right now everything's blending in fairly consistently. So here, before you do the dry brushing, you can really see I have not dry brushed this section, but you can see the variation that I've achieved in the ties with modulating those colors using the colors I listed earlier. So really happy with the effect. I think it's come up nice. Now I just have to go through and finish doing my rail detail, picking out more ties, and then obviously any of the spurs here for the industries. I'm going to have to figure out my scenic detailing and then assess what I'm going to do track wise. So yard still needs some work, still need some more turnouts for that, but I'm not in any dire rush. I am quite content letting the trains run and testing my track to make sure that I get all the bugs worked out before I really start scenicking this up. So that is how it stands right now. Those blocks, I actually just cut these this morning. They are for where I'm going to be mounting my my fascia. So obviously this is not much to bite into, so I'm going to put a block here so I can properly secure my fascia all the way around, and then over to here. So the fascia is going to come down. I also want to get working on a valance for up top here for my lights. And then I think I'd like to add a couple different lights, just so I can get some variation on lights for photographs and such. But then obviously also the background. Ideally I'd have the background done now, but it's pretty hard to get to the hardware store and get anything picked up. For my background I'm going to be using actually similar product to what's used for the sub road bed. I'm just going to use sheets of that. One long sheet, 8-foot sheet, you know, should do me all the way around, cut in half, and then that's going to give me something nice and sturdy to attach to. I'm just going to use liquid nails to attach it to the concrete, avoid having to drill into it any more than I absolutely need to. So that's where we stand right now. We're going to go back over to the desk and we'll finish out this update. Alright guys, there you have it. That's where we stand right now with what's going on. Obviously we've got a lot more painting to do, but it's coming along. It's coming along great. Really looking forward to getting my fascia up and getting that side of it done. I can't stress enough, as somebody who's new to the hobby, you know, and watching all the fantastic content out there, looking at the magazines, you know, you really gain an appreciation for all the photographs you see of models that are a work in progress. You know, you sometimes take it for granted. You see all these stunning, beautiful pieces in Model Railroader or on YouTube, on the Facebook pages. It's important to remember what it took to get there. So it's really been a humbling experience for me to start from the ground up here, working through. I can't stress enough how important it is to work out the bugs and to really spend some time running trains on your track. Make sure you got them figured out at this stage. You know, some people spend a very long time at this stage for a number of reasons, whether it's, you know, financial, time constraints, whatever. But don't be in too much of a rush. I know we all see these beautiful masterpieces and we want to get out there and we want to get it done. And we want to, you know, try our hand at it, but don't rush it. It's all going to pay off dividends huge. You know, a well operating layout, I think, is far more important than a layout that looks really, really good. You know, you're going to get a lot more enjoyment out of it when you're not having to stop and fix things, and you know, you invite people over, and or people are over and you're showing them your layout and it's stuttering and stopping, and it's not overly impressive. So work out your bugs, spend the time, get it ironed out, clean it, look after it. The rest of it's going to fall together. You know, if it runs good, chances are it's going to look good doing it. So keep that in mind. And that's it. I mean, going forward, got to work on the layout as far as scenery. You know, where I want scenes to be. Obviously, I don't want to cram too much into this small space. I've been really cognizant of trying to keep things with a natural flow, so that you can get that east-west feel of Sub 1. So I really want to pick and choose what I'm going to do here to augment that. I've been thinking a lot about what I'm going to do at the far end, so where I showed you where the tie modulation was with the colors there, that represents Fargo. I think that is going to be where my, well, it is, as a matter of where my primary staging is going to be. So I'm going to have to build a drop-in across the door with a staging yard to represent Fargo and the interchange traffic that's going to take place between there and Blenheim. And that's going to open up a lot of operational possibilities for me. And it's going to take it from just simply being a loop around to I have somewhere to go, pardon me, and somewhere to come from. So it's very important. It's very important to remember that when you're building. It's great to have a loop of track, but if you can add some operational interest, it's really going to help to hold your attention. So for me, it was very important that I had plenty of industry to switch, have the classification yard from Blenheim for setting cars aside for the interchange traffic, for setting cars aside for the local, you know, whatever the case was, I wanted to have a lot of different options. And I think I've achieved that so far. with the track plan the way it is. So try to build some interest. Try to build something that's going to keep you, wanting to come down. I personally can't wait. I'm thrilled that it's running in circles. I'm very happy with the progress that I've made, but I cannot wait to get down here and start switching some industries. I'm already looking into doing the car card system. I really want this to be operations focused, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. And I'm looking forward to showing you guys how I bring that about. So that's enough rambling for 1 week. I really appreciate everybody stopping by, everybody joining, subscribing, liking, commenting, blah 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 blah. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun. I'm really impressed with the caliber of the community around model railroading. Obviously, coming from a number of different modeling backgrounds, it was good, but it wasn't this good, let me tell you. So all I can say is cheers. Here's to the weekend. Happy model railroading, and we will catch up with you guys very, very soon. Keep her on the rails, boys.